So when
Good evening, everyone. This is a special meeting of the Guam Public Utilities Committee. It's September 24th, 2024, 6:45 p.m. We have one item on the agenda tonight, and it's GWA docket 2405 regarding petition for approval of GWA's fiscal year 2025 to 2029 5-year financial plan and rate increase. All commissioners are present this evening, with the exception of Mr. Mike Magdalena, who is recused from this meeting. Fred?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, parties to this proceeding, GWA, and our consultants, and ladies and gentlemen. This is the FY 2025 to 2029 GWA rate case and request for rate increase. There are, however, before we get into the stipulation of the parties, there are two issues that have not been resolved. So the parties signed a joint stipulation resolving most of the issues, but there are only two remaining. And those are the rate stabilization fund and the credit card convenience charge. Now, what these matters involve, the rate stabilization fund is something that GWA set up a few years back. I suppose its primary purpose is to provide an emergency fund or fund for unexpected expenses that occur. And Georgetown took the position that that should not be filled now. GWA has allocated $2.5 million for that fund for FY 2026 through 2029. So that's one of the issues you're going to address tonight. You've been familiar with the rate stabilization fund in the past. And the credit card issue involves credit charges that customers who use their credit cards to pay GWA bills. It's actually a bill to GWA, so GWA is paying those charges. And the question on the credit card charge is who should be responsible for paying those charges? Should they come out of operating funds? And I want to add on the RSF, there are really two issues. One is should it be funded, and secondly if so, by how much? So the procedure that will go forward tonight, these issues will be considered by the commissioners separately. So first, we're going to do the credit card issue. On that, Georgetown Consulting Group will start and have 5 minutes to present its view. And then GWA will have 5 minutes to present its view. Then that will follow with questions by the commissioners to either party, and then you will have a deliberation and vote on how to resolve the credit card issue. Secondly will be the RSF issue. The parties there will have 10 minutes, starting again with Georgetown and a response by GWA. And then after their presentations, again, the commissioners can ask questions and you'll then resolve the issues on that particular matter. So before we start, I just wanted to, before we address each issue, I know you probably read the parts of the joint stipulation that address this, but I just wanted to read a quick summary of each issue before the presentations are made. So for the fees for credit card fees, this is agreed to by the parties in the joint stipulation. Customers are permitted to use their credit cards to pay their bills. With each use of the credit card for transactions, GWA is charged a transaction fee. These fees are included in GWA's projected administration and general operating expense category in its financial plan. The cost is approximately $1.5 million annually and will cost ratepayers $7.5 million over the 5-year plan period. This is 0.9%, almost 1%, of the total system revenue requirements over this period, and would provide for a 1% reduction in rate relief requested for FY 2026. The PUC policy decision relates to whether these expenses are to be recovered as a component of rate revenue requirements and is charged to increase rates to all customers, or whether a separate convenience fee should be imposed for those customers electing to use credit cards to pay for their water and sewer bills and lower bills by $7.5 million to all customers. So I believe at this time we'll have Georgetown Consulting Group make its presentation on the credit card issue.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everybody. This is Jim Madden from
We don't
Georgetown.
have your audio right now. Hang on.
I'm sorry.
Can you hear us?
The audio is no good. Is there no audio? Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
One moment, sir. Sir, can you try and speak?
Yes, this is Jim Madden. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
One moment.
Thank you.
No. Sir, can you try talking again?
Mr. Madden, can
Yeah.
you hear him?
I can hear you.
Where's the speaker right here? Try again, sir.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can barely hear you.
I'm as close to the mic as I can get. You you can still not hear me?
Okay, one moment. Can you try again?
Yes, this is Jim Madden.
Sir, can you try talking again, please?
This is Jim Madden. Can you hear me?
Can you try one more time?
Jim Madden, can you hear me?
Can you try one more time, sir? I apologize. Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
What kind of check do you?
Set to 0. If you try using S again.
Just a moment, Mr. Madden.
Okay,
Sir, can you try again?
yes,
Can you try again?
hi,
Hello?
this is Jim Madden.
Sir, can you try talking again, please?
This is Jim Madden.
Does that have an audio out, jack? Headphone jack?
Yes, it does.
I'm gonna move this over there.
I also have this.
That's much far you're gonna get.
That's how far. These will just adjust the.
Sir, can you try again?
Yes, this is Jim Madden. Can you hear me?
All right, stand by, sir. We're trying one more thing. Try again, sir.
Yes, this is Jim Madden. Can you hear me?
Just a moment.
Okay.
One more time, sir.
Can you hear me? This is Jim Madden.
No, sir.
John, sir, have him call your cell number. They put him on speakerphone and put the mic up to the speakerphone.
Hi, Jeff.
So he has my number.
Yes, you know.
Sir,
Are you hearing this at all?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
okay, are you able to call? I emailed you. This is Sheila. Can you go ahead and call my phone?
No, it's not muted. I'm not muted.
I'm sorry?
No, I'm talking to the chairman.
Okay. Then you want to put it on. Here, I can hold it for you, sir.
I'm sorry.
Okay, sir, we're going to be,
We're gonna
can
use
you,
my phone for you to do your audio, okay?
Okay. Yeah. Should I go ahead? Okay.
Coming through?
Yeah, it's coming through to me. Can you hear me on your side?
We're gonna change the mic.
Okay.
wait, can you, once you disconnect,
Disconnect the mic.
let's plug it back.
Bring up the audio.
Oh, yeah, the yellow and black jacks?
Hang on, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Which yellow one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything, that's it. Can you test your mic? Sorry. Is it on?
Good, good.
Everything's on, everything's on.
There's only one connection there, right?
Yeah.
That's the only one connection there.
Jack? Yeah. Yes.
Only one.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
can you unplug this?
No, plug that.
That's for the.
Yeah, that's the, yeah.
Where's the audio?
What are you,
This is Oh, no, it's on. It's on.
Yeah, but that audio.
it's just so we can't hear it. See, all of it dying.
Not working, right?
See? I can't
It is.
hear.
It's on.
Your mic?
Everything's on. I didn't touch anything.
You have the mic. Oh, which? There.
There,
Can you try again, sir?
there,
I'm like a garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
there, it's on.
It's asking to me, yes, you need to mute your computer speaker. Yeah?
Want me to mute my speaker? Okay, one second. Uh,
Okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, talk, Ken. All right. All right, we're gonna reverberate.
That was not very good. Mute our mic? Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, try.
It's like,
Yes, it is transmitting publicly, sir.
We can hear you on the phone, but we can't hear you on the
Are you guys still on mute?
No,
No.
we're not. Yes, we are. We are live.
Sir, can you go ahead? Go ahead.
He's on mute. He's on mute.
Do it on. How do you do it? Speaker. I'm not a Mac user.
I'm gonna go ahead.
Go ahead.
I know. It's on mute?
Yeah, on mute. It's on mute.
Yeah. Oh, his mic is on. Okay. Turn off him. Mute him. There.
Where's your speaker? Plugged into this? Please don't. What's the speaker using? There's no ball.
Just normal.
That's the microphone.
That's just normal. Yeah.
That's not. Where's the speaker?
Turn.
I'm sending a video ahead of the RSV. Can you sound assistant? Where is he? What's his name?
Jim has Mr. Madden. Yeah, he's talking.
Okay.
You unmute. Yeah, unmute.
Yeah, that's
Yes. Okay. Ask him to turn on his mic. That's why his mic wasn't on.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Okay.
Ask him to
Sir, sorry, are you able to turn on your mic real quick?
his mic's not on.
Your
That's
mic is
why.
currently on mute.
Yeah, on your on his computer.
On your workstation or your computer, it's on mute.
Your
Can you
mic.
try turning on your mic, sir?
You have to
On the Zoom.
unmute
On the Zoom,
on the Zoom
on
call.
the Zoom app,
Can you unmute your mic?
could you unmute your mic on the Zoom on the bottom left-hand corner?
Where it says audio.
Yes.
Yes,
that's
yes,
why.
please.
That's why you couldn't hear him.
Let's see.
Okay, it's unmuted.
So where is he?
He hasn't muted yet.
Where is he?
Okay, shall I continue?
He's at the
There.
top. Yeah.
No, that's on
Wait.
there.
Oh,
Hold on. Where's he here now?
he's the second one.
Right here.
Second. Jim Madden. James This one.
Okay. Where's his audio?
He's unmuted. Just still with somebody else. Maybe with Robert Young.
Where was your speaker choices?
Speakers is on the bottom right, sir.
Right there. In that
What time
corner.
is it?
I'm sorry?
Now make it loud.
Turn
Sorry,
that
sir.
off. No. Try again. Say test.
Hey, can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay.
Hold on, move that away.
He
Turn
can.
that off.
Sir,
Yeah.
there you
Okay.
go.
So, okay.
Shall I turn the phone off and just,
No, turn,
Yes.
yes, turn the phone off. Can you do this?
okay. Okay, the phone's off. Is that better?
I'll take the mic to.
Hold on a second. Okay, 1 second then. Real tech audio.
Yes, and that's the audio.
But where are you hooking up to the big speakers? You want to throw, what are you using, this?
Here,
This
this
is your mouse, this?
Wait, hold on.
This is your speaker?
Yeah.
Actually, the speaker is for this one.
Go ahead.
That's a
Sir, go
microphone?
ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
No.
No, it's not gonna
What
work.
happened?
That's not
Can
gonna
you hear
work.
me?
Yes, we can hear you, but it's only on the PC. We need to get him, this PC hooked up to the speakers.
Yes,
Where's
we
this?
tried that,
We tried it earlier, but
Where's your speaker though? This is cable, this cable right here?
no, that one's only for this one. No.
oh, here.
This is just a microphone, right?
Right, that's the
Correct.
microphone, so
Okay.
You can put a,
here's
yeah,
the connection.
yeah,
Okay,
that
go.
should go in.
So the speakers are Realtek audio. That's
Right.
that's the onboard,
Yes.
right? Where's your speakers choices?
Can you hear me? This is Robert Young. Yeah, we can hear you, Robert, but same issue. We're just fixing it. A sec. Where's the,
So this will actually pop up. Get a new one that has
your
the,
default has changed to headphone, okay?
okay.
Okay?
And then can you have me try it again?
Okay, go ahead and say something.
Mr. Madden?
Yes, this is Jim Madden.
What's
Can you
that?
hear me?
Okay, but then why, on that new, where do you change the speaker selection?
The speakers, so click on the up arrow.
This up arrow?
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, this is not,
Go to the speaker. And then up arrow. Yeah. And then there should be a.
okay, this is the headphones.
Right.
There you are, right? Can you say something, Jim?
Yeah, this is Jim again. Can you hear?
Okay, so this,
It's only in this room that we can't hear.
Yeah,
Right. Oh wow.
Which does that,
he can be heard through out in the web and
Jim,
ether,
Jim,
not
sing
in
a
the
song.
Hi, this is Jim. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep changing, hold on.
she can hear me too.
Keep singing a song.
They're also audible.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you on that, but I can't hear you on this headphone jack.
Can you have me try again?
Try again.
Can you hear me?
1 second. Okay, okay, go ahead, say it again.
Can you hear me?
Is there a way for you to boost up your microphone levels?
It is on max right now.
Yeah, the
No,
problem,
it's not. Now it's on max.
that's on max, okay. This is not working for some reason.
Right.
This to that. What are you using? Just RCA jacks?
Yes.
Red,
And I have an
yellow,
auxiliary too.
the yellow,
Yeah. So it's red and white.
red and white, okay.
How about, can we put that to that? No. Oh, no, never mind.
Let's try it.
I can use my golf speaker.
What?
Low speaker.
I know.
No, but the thing is, you're not getting any signal from there.
Right.
Huh?
Okay, so we're on headphones.
Okay.
Auxiliary. Sir, can you try talking one more time?
Hi, this is Jim. Can you hear me?
No. Yep. No, is there a volume button on on the speakers that you got to turn on for the big bass? Do you have a volume? Is your volume maxed?
But then, do you know which was the volume?
Oh, that's down here.
Can you turn it all the way up? All the way up?
Try.
Okay, say something, Jim.
Hi, this is Jim. Can you hear me?
Turn it all the way up. Say again.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay, how about try this? Plug it in the mic box. And I'm gonna try this. Right here.
Oh.
Right here.
To put it on.
And then just put it onto the speaker.
Speaker there. Yeah.
Oh. No, but his is Jim, go ahead, say something.
Can you hear me again? This is Jim.
Where's your speaker though?
Yeah. Down in front. Yeah.
Do you have office speakers?
This is it.
No, like the little square ones?
No.
No? I can't find the speaker though. Go ahead,
Can you
say
say-
something, Jim.
Can you hear me? This is Jim.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you. We need to get a Bluetooth speaker. It's not working. There's something wrong with this. This setup, huh?
Sir, say something again?
No, it's
Can you hear me? This is Jim.
unless you take that call out. Jim, do you have WhatsApp by any chance?
I'm sorry?
You have WhatsApp?
I do have WhatsApp.
There. The speaker's underneath.
You have it underneath? I wonder if we use a WhatsApp call. Can you
Oh, call my number. RC.
Yeah,
Chairman.
I'm sorry.
yeah, we're gonna switch you over to a data call.
Okay.
Oh, here's the speaker.
Yeah, yeah, but if you can get them on here, it's better.
Or
Sir?
the Zoom,
Yeah.
There.
No, I don't think they can hear them.
Yes.
Where's this microphone? That's maximum, right? We put it on max. No, no, leave that there. Oh, turn on that bottom bit all the way. Okay, try again. Good. Good, Jim.
Yeah. This is Jim. Can you hear me?
Where is the speaker? I think it's on this side. I think it's on this side.
It's right here,
No?
the edge. Right here.
Really?
Yeah. Sir?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
That's fair enough.
I can hear him on my PC.
Okay.
So why don't I just move my PC so that you guys can hear him, or maybe you can put that mic on that PC instead
Okay.
of trying to do it off of there. Can we just try
Right.
that?
the Zoom meeting link.
It's there. Yeah.
Tracy said, have the consultant
Are you able to increase the
call the
volume on that
secretary and exchange up to the
Do you guys have a folder? Because I was gonna jump into the Zoom. I was gonna go into the Zoom and have it to where it's
mic? You gotta turn off these mics.
already.
No, turn off our host mic. Oh, no, we can't. Yeah, turn off the host.
Do you have the machine or do you have the Zoom link? I'm gonna put it on my phone. And then I'll bring my phone up to the front so that you can hear it with the actual Zoom meeting going on.
Yeah. Email yourself.
Sir, are you able to say something?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Put him here. There. There. Can't hear him.
Everything good?
Or can you get into the Zoom or the info so I can log in? You know where you went? Like me?
Me?
Yeah. So they're just.
Try again.
So can you try again?
Yeah. Can you hear me? This is Jim.
Yeah,
You guys
Good.
can hear me? It's okay.
and we're live public.
Yes.
Yes, we're still live.
Everybody gather around.
It was there, the list where you said you can share. I think it was on the piece of paper. Trying to read it. He said the link was just there on the thing. And we just
Okay.
used-
Can you hear me? Is this good?
Sir, can you go ahead and start over?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Start
You
over.
can- I do what?
Repeat what you were saying. Your presentation.
Start over with the presentation.
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm going to start over if that's okay. The overview is that GWA pays credit card company fees when their customers use their credit cards to pay their water and wastewater bills. Approximately half of the customers take advantage of this process. The cost is $1.5 million annually, or $7.5 million over the 5-year plan. The $1.5 million is absorbed by GWA and charged to all of its customers. The cost is caused by those customers using their credit cards. Benefits such as the miles that accrue to the cardholder, while the cost is spread to those who have not used their credit cards and not caused a fee. The basic tenet of rate making is to match as far as possible the costs with those responsible for causing it. In this instance, it is GWA's customers that use credit cards to pay their bills that cause the cost, and GWA spreads the credit card fees to all the customers. Benefits of using the cards to pay the GWA bills accrue only to those using their cards. The staff position is to allow GWA customers to continue to use their credit cards, but they should be charged a fee equal to what GWA pays the credit card company, generally about 1.5%. All other free alternatives will still be available to the customers. GWA's arguments include the following: that elimination of the use of credit cards will increase GWA's cost of doing business. Staff does not propose or recommend any restriction on the use of credit cards by customers to pay their bills. GWA has provided nothing other than conjecture to support their arguments that customers will stop using their credit cards. GWA further argues that significant modifications will be required to their mobile app. All that is required is a simple change in the app by the credit card that would be 1%, 1.5% higher. Once again, the only support for this assertion is conjecture. GWA speculates that because of imposition of fees, that use of credit cards to pay their bills will cause them to pay their bills by checks. No data to back up this claim has been provided. Because of the increase in the use of checks to pay their bills, GWA further speculates that the cost of handling checks returned for insufficient funds will be a significant increase, again with no support or documentation. Staff notes that GWA charges a fee for checks returned for NSF checks. Once again, GWA did not provide any support other than conjecture. It is also well known that water is a resource that no one can do without. The action cited by GWA could result in a shutoff of service, which would be an unlikely event. GWA argues for consistency with GPA. No facts on the GPA situation have been presented. The GWA and GPA bills are sent separately to customers, but GWA argues that this would cause confusion. While GWA may argue that the 1.5 million annually being charged to customers is small, about 1% of GWA's revenues, it is a significant amount for customers, cumulatively 7.5 million over 5 years. This amount should also be put in context of the overall request. In the last 5-year plan, GWA was awarded $20.4 million in rate increases. And in this case, GWA petitioned for an additional $100 million of rate increases annually. The amount petitioned was over 29% for the first year, with no effort to ameliorate or phase in the increase. Any increase over 10% is considered a rate shock. There is still a 5-year plan to come. The staff recommendation in conclusion is as follows. GWA should implement the 1.5% fee on those customers that use their credit cards to pay their bill. This fee would offset the $1.5 million in credit card fee expense in GWA's revenue requirements. In conclusion, this issue is also connected with other issues in the case. GWA and staff have worked closely to work out a plan to try and eliminate the Navy water expense. There is a lot better use for the $7.5 million to be put into that effort, significantly greater benefits to ratepayers to eliminate the $16 million of Navy expense, which appear to be now working towards a solution. Both GWA and GCG have agreed to that solution, and a lot better than simply providing those card holders that use their cards 7.5 million miles to go on vacations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Can you hear me? Hey, sorry, I'm a little frazzled by the technical difficulty. GW's position on the credit card convenience fee is that we oppose the implementation of the convenience fee and consider the credit card expenses as a just and reasonable cost of doing business. Counter Georgetown's points, the CCU has given a direction to GWA and GPA that we should standardize our customers' experience, and we have all spent considerable effort to align our those policies to our customers' experience. And the proposal that GWA presents leads to a situation where we would be charging a credit card convenience fee for our customers, and GPA would not. We have customers that come to our customer service center to pay both of their bills, and when they pay the GWA bill with their credit card, they can charge an extra 1.5% if that's the percentage. And then when they pay the solid bill, they would not charge them. So it creates a disparity of the experience, and then customer satisfaction issue that we feel is not justified by what is being proposed. We also, to the point of requiring modification, it's not as simple as Mr. Madden laid out. It would require significant modifications to the mobile app. Yes, it could be done, but it would take time. And based on the complexity of what banks charge us for each different type of credit card, and then if it's a debit card, and all of those different fees that apply, we would end up having to figure out some uniform way of charging them, because it will be too difficult and too complex to achieve the goal of having the customers pay exactly for what it costs us for their transaction. Based on the type of card we also believe that the costs are standard cost of doing business. You know, if you take the flip side of this argument, why should anybody paying with a credit card pay for the cost of the cashiers and the brick and mortar establishment and all those expenses in order for GWA to collect cash payments and checking? So, you know, if you don't make the distinction, then there is no issue. And so we believe that it's better to leave things as they are and not provide that distinction. We believe that distributing these expenses provides a seamless, convenient payment method for all of our customers and encourages them to pay. During the pandemic, we saw that doing this really was necessary in order to, you know, provide contactless forms of payment. But in the modern age of using mobile apps and website applications, this just doesn't align with what's being proposed. We believe that it would lead to greater use of checks, lead to more efforts for us administratively to try and collect checks and then bounce check fees and so on and so forth. If you move to the next slide, and some of the numbers are small on the screen, so it's providing a hard copy for you to see. This provides a trend over the last 2 years of what our customer payments look like, and you can see just in terms of the count of payments, the number of transactions has gone from this fiscal year 2022, 64% of the total, to the last 2 years being 70% of the total. So, the vast majority of our customers are utilizing this as a service. We don't believe that there is a type of benefit being accrued and people paying their water bills and then taking vacations. We don't think that that's the case, nor is it an issue, and GCG has not provided any hard evidence to that fact to support that argument. As Mr. Madden likes to say, it's conjecture. But what's not conjecture is the number of transactions, the number of customer payments at 70%, and then the total percent of revenues by payment type. And it's the trend is increasing. The use of credit cards is increasing, and that is that. If you look at the next slide on the bottom, you'll see using the proposal and in the scenarios that we presented, Georgetown scenario includes applying the credit card fee and not funding the rate stabilization fund. That's GCG scenario. And then alternative number 2 is providing the RSF, providing the RSF and applying the credit card fee. So if you look at the sample bill amounts that we've chosen for 5,000 gallons, 7,000 gallons, and 12,000 gallons, and we just picked 1 year, we used fiscal year 29. In that year, with the proposal that Georgetown is recommending, customers paying with credit cards are paying significantly higher, not significantly higher, but they will be higher than customers who are not paying with credit cards, obviously because of the additional fee. But even if you look at the box that's highlighted in blue, our proposal of funding both the RSF and not charging the credit card fees, it's 104, for example, versus 105 and 106 with Georgetown scenario and alternative number 2. So the bottom line is that the fees would be higher, the bills would be higher for 70% of the transactions, 70% of the customers would pay more with that convenience. So, the benefit is not accruing to the majority of customers, it's accruing to the minority of customers. Just to point out the amounts that we're talking about in credit card fees would be, in the last 3 years, I think have been between 0.62 and 0.7% of total revenue. So we're really talking about a very small.
The commissioners have any questions of either our staff, Georgetown, WA,
Did it spread across? That's how I'm reading this schedule. Yes, the 105 amount would be for a bill for 5,000 gallons of water in 2029. That's the water and the wastewater bill combined. With paying the credit, with the convenience fee would be $105.56, and without the convenience fee, it would be $104.53. And that's the GWA, which also includes funding the rate stabilization.
This includes the rate stabilization fund?
Our proposal includes the rate stabilization.
Do you have a proposal without the rate that's what I had requested. I wanted two scenarios. One was funding just the credit cards, and one was funding just the rate stabilization fund. That's what I had requested. This combines the two. What is it was just funding the credit card?
Alternative two,
Getting messages, can't hear.
how can he object, how can he object if he's not hearing it? Well, of course, he's gonna object to what I'm saying because he doesn't want us to advance the proposition of the.
Yeah, and Kelly, check if Mr. Madison can hear us in here.
No, audio's on. This, audio's on.
Mr. Madden, can you hear us?
I can hear the request that just came through pretty clearly, but cannot hear anybody else.
You couldn't hear them talking?
It's very clear when you're talking. I can hear that clearly.
Oh, Miguel, maybe you gotta unmute your microphone on your laptop so that he can. Because
Yeah, that's also very clear.
Okay, did you also hear when attorney was talking?
No,
And, Brooks, Commissioner Brooks?
no.
Sorry, did you say I was clear or no?
Can't hear Commissioner Brooks.
No, he
He
couldn't
said he
hear
couldn't
you.
hear anybody.
Well, I guess you could put that there.
Then, I don't know what you like to say.
My question was, what would the rate be if we funded or allocated the credit card all customers, separate from the rate stabilization fund?
Sir, can you hear that?
Yeah, I heard pieces of it. What would the rate be if what?
Okay, so you heard her.
I heard the introduction. What would the rate be? And I didn't hear the rest.
Okay. He heard her.
Yeah, Georgetown's position is that GWA's total revenues don't change. The credit card users will be charged $1.5 million more.
One moment, sir. He has something to say.
I'm sorry?
In reference to what Commissioner
Brooks.
said.
I don't care who responds. I just want to know what would the rate be with just the credit card added, not including the rate stabilization fund. Because what I hear you say, Miguel, that this schedule includes both.
No, Doris, that would be the Georgetown proposal that you're just asking right now. If there's no rate stabilization members pay the credit card fee, that is the Georgetown proposal. It's not alternative one or alternative two, and it's not GWA's alternative. It's the Georgetown, that is the Georgetown. So that's what they offered up on their side, staff side.
She's asking, that's, no, nothing, she's asking now, what if we just consider credit card fees? Where is that number without all the other?
That's what it is. That's the Georgetown proposal. There's no rate stabilization fund.
Okay.
And there's a credit card fee that's applied to the customer.
No,
You're across.
no,
The way all the
he's
customers
saying,
that use the credit card.
he's saying
No.
charge of this, we're saying
No,
no,
no.
absorb it.
No, I'm saying absorb it.
Absorb it.
Yeah, what is
Because
that
you don't want
scenario?
confusion between GDP and GDP.
Yeah.
Right?
What rate would that be? That's what I'm asking. Not where Georgetown is proposing.
What is no credit card fee, which can be absorbed,
Right.
and no rate stabilization.
Alternative one, 5010360.
Alternative one,
5 pay out, or 360.
five pay out would be 103.60.
Or 360.
To be clear, that is applying the credit card fee as you want it, right? Your proposal, across the board.
Right.
So it's actually
No stabilization.
cheaper. It's actually cheaper across the board
To the customer.
to the customer. So it would be 103.60, 149.70 for 70 and so 65.10 compared to, what is DWA scenario number in blue? What is that?
What is it?
The difference between alternative one, the 103.60, and GWA scenario, 5,000 gallons at 104, is the RSF.
Oh, the RSF, okay. Thank you.
So one is supported, one is up, and supported by hard up.
Alternative one does not support the RSF. GWA, but spreads the credit card fees across all customers. The GWA's proposal spreads the credit card fees across all customers and funds the RSF. That's the 104.
If you were to look at all these alternatives, the differential between all of them from low to high is $2 at 5,000 K gallon.
Well, what's confusing me is why Georgetown's proposals were higher. That's why it's confusing in my brain.
Sure.
In other words, why is GWA's proposal lower and Georgetown's higher?
There's not saying charge customers credit card fees.
Yeah, but even under the scenario of the rate stabilization fund, it's still higher. So that's why I'm confused.
And now there's two. There's the rate stabilization fund is added to the credit card fee is, workshop is being charged to customers, so the cashier. Customers can get hit with this percentage convenience fee that has that charge. So what we're saying is to avoid any confusion is absorb the credit card fees and GPA is doing.
Yes,
Right?
right.
And then look at what else basically.
Yes.
Okay, Jim?
Yes,
Need rest?
Sir, did you hear everything they were talking about?
just very, very softly and not completely. I would like to add that I don't believe that Georgetown's position is being reflected accurately at all. Georgetown's position is that those using that those using their credit cards will
One
pay.
moment, sir. One moment, sir.
Microphone.
Go ahead, sir.
You with us, Jim?
Yeah, yeah. I was just saying that I don't believe that Georgetown's position is being reflected accurately. Georgetown's position is that those using their credit cards will pay the extra 1.5 million annually through, which is the convenience fee. Uh, they also get a value for the use of that credit card, which is approximately the same 1.5 million. However, Georgetown's position is that once these revenues increase to maintain the same debt service coverage, you would reduce the fees by an equivalent amount to everybody else. So the credit card holders pay an extra 1.5 million. All other ratepayers get 1.5 million rate reduction. The revenues to GWA in total rates remain identical. There's no change in the amount of revenues that GWA will receive. One side goes up, the other side goes down to maintain the same debt service coverage that was agreed to in the stipulation.
Okay, thank you.
This scenario doesn't reflect that. This scenario doesn't reflect
Put in you just mute the microphone.
the scenarios that are here don't reflect that.
Four different scenarios that all involve two variables. One is the credit card fee, yes or no, and one is the rate stabilization. Those are the only two issues we're facing prior to when we go to the stipulation. So we just have to make a decision at this point in time, do we keep business as usual? And the convenience fee is, covered by GWA? Or do we charge it separately to the 70% of the customers who are now using credit cards to pay their bills? One of the problems is if we deviate from this, is GPA has the same system that GWA has right now, and we'd be going down two separate paths. So if we were to alter it, we probably ought to consider altering GPA at the same time. That's a little bit of a problem. I don't think we're really ready for that at this point in time, so.
Up to 70%, or the of customers. What is, what classes are make up of that 70% or the 30%? Whichever is easier. And is it, if the majority of the customers are commercial, they're paying with their credit cards, right? And they're also subsidizing the water bill for the residential, then yes, convenience fee makes, does it make sense?
The majority of the transactions are residential.
Or residential,
Yes.
of the 70%. Yes. So whether it's a convenience fee or not, they're paying for it. The only thing that I have now is we have the 30%. So 70% of the customers are going to benefit from it. Whether they pay for it on their bill now or if we take it off, they're going to benefit from it. The other 30%, right? Of that 30%, you have all these additional costs. So 70% is out of the picture. 30% of 1.5 million is now what we're paying between the convenience of having a customer pay on time versus having to go out and try to make collections, bounce checks, handle cashiers, additional cashiers, all those additional, challenges, I guess, or expenses that we would normally have if we didn't have credit cards back in the old days, right? So I I mean, I'm all for technology and using credit cards to pay because it's easier for you guys to get your money. The sooner you get it, you can start doing the projects or continue paying your bill. So, if we were voting now, I'd say, I'd move to. But seriously, the other day, something to say.
I don't think this matter should have been brought to us, saying that our GWA, it should have been collective with GPA. This is actually a waste of our time, you know, if we're not looking at it together. It'll be crazy if I go in and pay my water bill and pay 1.5% and then pay my car bill and pay nothing, you know, this is just a waste of time. We're going to consider it collectively, not separate, you know.
That's a future point. Yeah, I agree.
You had made a comment about during the pandemic, you saw an increase in the use of the credit card, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And normally, business transactions have always been, the transaction fee is absorbed. That was always business practice. I think it's going to cause issues if we don't consider both agencies and make a decision on what PSUs and make a decision on any use of credit cards. You also mentioned, is there a fee for the debit card as well?
In terms of what we get charged from the banks, yes, it's a smaller one. So if you're using a debit card, then, you know, you're going to go through this policy and trying to assess your cost to your bill. You know, different charge for debit, there's a different charge for MasterCard, there's a different charge for Visa. And so some sort of blended rate would have to work, and that's, you know, to make it easy for us to implement, but then it still be at some level charging people with debit cards more than would be if they more than they deserve perhaps because their transactional fee is smaller.
That is all their convenience fee, that's what we look at.
Which there are federal prohibitions against some of that stuff, which we haven't even begun to vet yet. That's why I'm saying it's a complex issue and it's not something that just flip a switch and it's done.
So what is GPA's, are they on a fixed annual fee and is this an even steep amount versus GWA's? If this is, was this approved for the full 5 years of the rate case, or do we visit this every year and find out where we are? If should the stars align that GPA and GWA kind of is an issue that we can actually discuss it together at that time versus
You asking me?
yes.
Yeah, at any annual true, you could always go back and revisit the same. Sure.
Okay. So for now, it makes sense to just keep it convenient for the customer, which means bills.
just want to see if this is brought together to us again and we vote for the GPA instead of rate.
Well, it could be, that'll be up to GPA, I guess the CCU actually. The CCU would have to take appropriate action to do that. But it'd be up to them. I mean, otherwise, the commission wouldn't be considering GPA's credit charge policy unless it came up in a separate rate case. For example, CCU could always bring that to the board if they wish.
I'll make a motion, docket 2405 in regards to the credit card charges, to remain the same as no convenience fee added.
Thanks, Joe. Is there a second?
Second.
Pete, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. On to the next policy proposal, which is the rate stabilization fund. Fred, are we going to have Georgetown start again on this one? Or
Yeah.
going to make some comments?
On the rate stabilization. On the rate stabilization fund, there are really two issues. And first of all, should it be included in the rate requirements at all? That's the first issue. And the second issue is what should be the annual amount if you approve. So GWA has asked for $2.5 million per year from 2026 through 2029, total of 10 million. So that would be a question for you too. What should be the amount of the rate stabilization annual payment? This issue, like the credit card, has to be resolved because without a resolution, we can't yet prepare the final rates that will go into effect for the next 5 years. As we did on the credit card charge, it was like a restatement of the joint stipulation as to what the issues are here. With respect to the rate stabilization fund, GWA has proposed to transfer $2.5 million per year between FY 2026 and FY 2029 from its operating fund to replenish the rate stabilization fund depleted in FY 2023 and FY 2024 to cover previously unanticipated power purchase expenses, FY 2023, and water purchase expenses, FY 2024, and enable compliance with covenanted debt service coverage requirements. The proposed replenishment would increase rates in FY 2026 by 1.75%, or increase rates by $2.5 billion, and for each year thereafter, for a total increase of $10 million in rate revenue requirements, or 1.2% of total revenue requirements over the 5-year period. The PUC policy is whether to begin RSF replenishment in FY 2026 or defer RSF replenishment beyond the FY 2025 to FY 2029 financial plan period. So on this matter, each side would have 10 minutes, and again, the procedure would be Georgetown to proceed first with the presentation.
Before,
Yes. Correct. It starts in 2026.
Shall I start? Can you hear me? Shall I start? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hi, can I go ahead? Hello? Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Sir, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. This is the Georgetown presentation on the issue of the rate stabilization fund. The overview and description is that GWA has requested that ratepayers pay an additional $10 million in rates for the period 2025 through 2029. This is in addition to the 24 million already granted in the prior 5-year plan and the $100 million petition in GWA's initial request in this plan. This would add $10 million to the various GWA cash reserves that are already at substantially high levels. Staff analysis. GWA's original petition in this proceeding asked for a 29% increase in 2025 and a 12.5% increase in 2026. This petition did not take into account the substantial increase in cost of Navy water purchases, which GWA was aware of but did not include in its original petition. In other words, the request would have been even higher. Staff recommends that the rate sought have been ameliorated by the use of commercial paper that was sanctioned by the Guam legislature, as well as the participation of staff in this proceeding. Not taking into account the two disputed issues in this proceeding, the requested rate increases have been reduced to an 11.5% increase in each of the two fiscal years, 2025 and 2026. This is approximately $35.1 million in rate revenues, lower than what GWA originally filed for the 2 years, 2025 and 2020. 11.5% rate increase in each of the years is still characterized as a rate shock in most jurisdictions. Anything over 10% is generally considered a rate shock. It is staff's initial observation that adding a cumulative $10 million rate increase on customers in this environment is ill-advised. This is also $10 million being pulled out of the Guam economy. Staff did indicate that with proper justification, a buildup of the rate stabilization reserve could be considered and suggested that an initial threshold condition would be that GWA had operated with a 3% rate increase for a period of 3 consecutive years. Other conditions would also need to be considered, such as the size of its cash reserve. Staff indicates that the GWA indicates the staff suggestion is effectively moot, as it does not see an environment like that in the foreseeable future. Another way of saying that is GWA customers can expect significant rate increases for the foreseeable future. Why then add another $10 million of rate increase for fiscal years 26 through 29? Staff believes that funding the RSF at this time is ill-advised. GWA does not dispute that it has significant cash reserves. As of August 31st of this year, just a couple of months ago, GWA had almost $300 million in restricted and unrestricted cash reserves as shown in the following table presented to the CCU by GWO. The table should be on your screen showing unrestricted funds of 45 million and all the various categories totaling up to $298.9 million of restricted and unrestricted cash. Please remember that every one of these dollars is being funded by ratepayers. GWA's unrestricted cash balance has increased from 36.1 million in fiscal 19 to 45.2 million as of August 31st of this year. GWA argues that 42 million in unrestricted cash reserves are not enough in some way to take care of unintended consequences. Why then were the reserves created in the first place? GWA argues that moreover, GWA and the government of Guam have committed to certain covenants in GWA's bond indenture, including section 6.13, which require that the authority not permit any default to occur, do anything to impair the security intended for the indenture. Staff does not see anything in the stipulation that permits a default to occur. In fact, the stipulation arrived at meets all of the metrics that GWA has requested in its petition. It is just not prudent to add $10 million of rate increases in a period of rate shock level. GWA argues that GCG's suggestion that existing fund balances established from already recognized prior year revenues can be used to pay for unanticipated expenses and fails to recognize that these balance transfers would not be recognized as revenues for debt service coverage calculations. GWA would still have fallen into technical default, GWA says, if it paid for the unanticipated power expenses by just drawing down the operation and maintenance reserve. Staff does not recognize that the funds would not be recognized for coverage in the events mentioned. The issue is that the funds are available to GWA to cover the emergency. The issue is whether you pre-fund an additional $10 million of reserves. GWA already has $298 million, adding to the significant rate increases that have been requested and approved, or use the many mechanisms available to GWA to fund the emergency at the time it occurs. Funding the RSF, just adding in here, is no different to pre-funding a rate increase. This is nothing more than approving $10 million of rate increases in this proceeding, and there's no reason for that. GWA does not mention that in the unlikely event that a technical default does occur, there are straightforward remedies to address the issue. In fact, GWA is aware that all it requires is a letter to the trustee indicating what actions GWA is taking to address the default. We have been in other proceedings where a technical default has occurred and letters to the trustee have gone out, and that is what it takes to cure the default. GWA would not be faced with reorganization or any action of that kind, as the reader might be led to infer from GWA's position. As rate stabilization funds have been depleted, the GPUC has necessarily moved to provide the necessary rate relief to cover what is prudent and necessary. GWA did not provide any evidence as to the benefits of increasing rates by $10 million to fund the RSF and what this would provide for ratepayers. There is a single quote from a rating agency in GWA's testimony saying that the rating agency would like the RSF to be replenished. Staff points out that the interest of rating agencies are primarily for the bond investors and not really for the ratepayers. No information has been provided by GWA or the rating agencies to quantify how much of an additional rate increase would be necessary to improve its rating from its current levels to what GWA would believe would be a higher level and provide lower interest costs. There's no information. Staff believes it would be significant and not welcome to ratepayers in this difficult time. Our recommendation, it's the mission of the commission to balance all the interests of all parties, of GWA, its ratepayers, and the interests of Guam. Staff believes that adding $10 million of additional rates, pre-funding them at this time, in the current 5-year plan is not warranted and is harmful to already overburdened ratepayers. That concludes our presentation.
Yes, sir. Yes, Ben. No more interruptions. It's gonna go through now.
Jim, I'm just testing here. Can you hear me? Jim?
Mr. Madden?
Yes. I'm here. No, I can't hear. No. It's very, very soft now. This is the first time I can actually hear some words, but very soft.
Jim, can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
You gotta move closer to the mic.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, Miguel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So GWA's position on the rate stabilization fund is that we support funding, refunding, replenishing the rate stabilization fund through a one-time increase of 1.5% in fiscal year 26, which will achieve a reasonable replenishment by fiscal year 29. Just to remind the commissioners that the rate stabilization fund is intended to do exactly what the name implies and provide a means for GWA to address unanticipated expenses without coming back to the PUC for unplanned rate increases. It allows us to meet our bond covenants and debt service coverage ratio requirements without a unplanned rate increase for unanticipated expenses. When such unexpected expenses arise, if we have insufficient revenues, then our debt service coverage ratio can fall below the minimum 1.25%, which could lead to technical default. We don't agree with Georgetown's position that simply it's a simple matter and it's really nothing serious to be in technical default. We strive very hard and have spent many years making financially sound decisions in order not to be in technical default and maintain our bond indentures and as much as possible lower our cost of borrowing. Mr. Madden went on at length about cash reserves that GWA has in the various funds, restricted and unrestricted, and I will tell you that all of those funds have a specific purpose. The restricted ones are related to reserves that we are required to put in for the bonds that we borrow. There are other indenture-related funds that are restricted, including having operational reserves. And yes, those are intended to cover emergencies. But the distinction that we need to point out is that all of those reserves don't help our coverage in the single year, and only the RSF reserves are set up to do that, because when we fund them, we don't count them as debt service coverage in the year that we obtain those revenues, and we put it into an account specifically for when we do need emergencies. We can then draw out of that account and count it as revenues. And that matching unanticipated expenses with an extra source of revenues allows us to avoid technical default on the bond indenture. And right now, we'd like to point out that our debt service coverage is very low. It is the lowest of comparable Guam rated credits or enterprises. You can see the table that we presented. The Port Authority is at 3.0 times. GIA is at about 1.7 times. The Power Authority at the end of fiscal 23 is at 1.37 times, same as where we are now. But as of August, the Power Authority is at 1.9 times. So more current numbers, they're doing that. So the margin between our minimum debt service coverage requirement of 1.25 times and where we are now is not that much. And it's in previous years and prior years, we have had a much better debt service coverage ratio. And in fact, the PUC at one time was wanting us to be at 1.75 times. And you recall, in our prior rate case, there was an order that encouraged us and the CCU and the PUC to align the debt service coverage calculation with industry standards and what all the rating agencies look at in order to create a more uniform approach to our credit ratings and create less confusion with the credit rating agency, to just have a clearer picture of our financial status. And at that time, when we realigned it, changed the debt service coverage calculation not to include reserves, the reserves that the CCU had set up to count in their own debt service calculation to reach that 1.75. Those were the initial source of the rate stabilization fund, and I think it was 11.4 or 11.2 million. So we had set those funds aside, and then we have since depleted them. But our rate stabilization fund now is not funded. We have 0.9 million in there. From the 11.4 that we previously had, we had spent that down. But with our debt service coverage ratio at its low point, there are recent examples that reflect why that puts us in danger of technical default. In fiscal year 23, when the global oil prices increased and power expenses increased, GWA had an increase over fiscal year 2022 in power purchase expenses of $6 million. I apologize, that $9 million in the slide should be $6 million. And the only way that we could maintain our debt service coverage ratio during that time was to use the rate stabilization fund and account that as additional revenues. So Georgetown's suggestion that we could use other cash reserves to cover those expenses ignore the reality that even if we had used other reserves like the OMER, which is Operation Maintenance Renewal and Replacement Reserve Fund, even if we were able to use that, we still would have been in technical default. Just on the issue of why did we have to spend down those funds, in the original $11.4 million rate stabilization fund, we at that time for the prior rate case, and you'll see the image on the next slide with the slide from our presentation at the comprehensive review and update in fiscal year 2022, that the recommendations from Georgetown was to deplete all of the rate stabilization fund and use ARPA funds instead of providing rate relief. And so they recommended 0% increases over the last 3 years of that period, or the prior 5-year rate case. And because of we did get nominal increases at 5.5, but because they were lower than we requested, and because of the unanticipated increase that was all so that we could meet the minimum 1.25 debt service coverage ratio and not for the technical default. Georgetown has argued that we haven't provided any good reason why the rate stabilization fund should be refunded. And we've been arguing this point since the comprehensive review and update. We requested rates at that time that would have replenished the rate stabilization fund and allowed us to keep a reasonable balance. That didn't happen. And then when we got to the true-up proceeding for fiscal year 24, our request was 27%. Georgetown recommended a 16.1% rate increase and rejected funding the RSF. And you can see the inset there of their position on back in that. So again, kicking the can down the road and not funding the rate stabilization. Although we didn't receive the rate relief we requested in order to replenish at least partially the rate stabilization fund, at that meeting, the commissioners advised us that we should bring this back before you in the 25 through 29 rate case, the next 5-year rate case, which is exactly what we have done. We have proposed a single year 1.5% increase in fiscal year 26 to start refunding the rate stabilization fund to $10 million by the end of 29, and at that point, that expense would not be included in any additional or future rate proceeding. We would stop at 10 million. That's what we're asking for in this rate case and in this position. I did provide we did provide in the testimony in the briefing in the stipulation a quotation from one of the rating agencies, Mr. Madden. Advises the rating agencies are only interested in protecting the bondholders, but we believe that the reasons that we have been placed on negative outlooks by 2 of the rating agencies are because of the statements that they've made in their credit analysis, and you can see the language that we've highlighted here, that in the negative outlook and our current rating assumes that we would take the steps necessary to meet the internal debt service coverage and liquidity requirements or targets and replenish the rate stabilization fund, because they see that as a credit enhancement and as prudent management, financial management on the part of the authority. We have had a clear record of this in our testimony, despite Mr. Madden's comments. It was in my testimony, it was in the CFO's testimony, and also testimony of our financial consultant, Eric Lopside. We believe that we know for a fact that these credit analysts of these rating agencies listen to and read all the news that comes out of GWA, and so they are paying attention and watching what we do here, and we believe it will have an impact on our future credit rating. And if we are downgraded or continue to be on a negative outlook, we believe that that affects the cost of borrowing for GWA in future transactions, and we know that we cannot proceed with our capital improvement program without borrowing additional funds. So this is critically important to us. Our bond rating snapshot we present on the next slide. You can see that 2 of the 3 major agencies that rate our bonds have put us on a negative outlook, primarily because of slow or delayed action on our rate case, lower than requested rate relief, and the fact that we relied on these emergency funds or the rate stabilization fund to meet our debt service coverage requirements in prior years, and if we don't have sufficient revenues to cover our basic revenue requirements, then that of course is a great concern to us. And so as you can see, we are in our most recent rating actions in February 2024 and in the June 2024 update for Fitch. Standard & Poor's and Fitch have both placed us on a negative outlook for the reasons cited. We also do want to make note of the bond indenture requirement that Georgetown mentioned. We believe that there is weight to this provision of the indenture, which says that The authority and the government should not suffer or permit any default to occur. It doesn't distinguish here between default or technical default, so it's considered a default, or permit or do anything that might in any way weaken, diminish, or impair the security intended pursuant to the invention. And we believe that having a rate stabilization fund and funding it to a reasonable level is a prudent financial measure. It's a 1.5% rate increase for 1 year, with those revenues from that to be placed into the rate stabilization fund. And after that is accomplished, then there would be no further need for additional revenues to put into the rate stabilization. So, just to summarize, we support this one-time increase. We think it's a prudent measure, and if you look at the rate adjustments, it's only in year 26 that we're proposing to increase that, an additional 1.5% in order to fund the rate stabilization. This is in contrast, 2.5 million a year is in contrast to our prior request, which was denied in the FY24 true-up proceeding of 7.5 million all at one time. So we listened to what we thought you were telling us. We reduced the amount, reduced the rate impact, and spread it out over a longer period instead of recovering it in one majority of it in 1 year. We're spreading it out over 4 years, and we think that's reasonable and prudent, and would send the correct signals to our financial statements.
Thank you, Miguel. Any comments or questions? George, no, or CWA? We did speak with Mr. Cordelio in the last rate case regarding this issue, and gave an indication to him to present this at the next 5-year rate plan, which here we are now. I see a need for it, both in bond rating agencies rating negative outlook at this point in time for CWA. And the question becomes how much and when. We've done this with GPA in the past too, helped with some of their reserves also. And I think we need to do this with GWA also, put us in a better position with the bond rating agencies. I probably wouldn't go as far as the 10 million right now. I'll be honest. I'll leave it up to the other commissioners to make that decision. I would probably recommend something less, but I do think we need to get it started and just have it in process. That's exactly what we did with GPA. With GPA in the past, we started them with 5 million, then we went to 10 million, and then we went as far as 20 million. And those funds came in very handy for issues that came along the way with GPA. I don't believe we're up there now. Dwayne, you know how significant the equivalent fund is in EPA right now?
Pardon?
Are we around 10 or 11 million
For
for EPA?
self-insurance?
Self-insurance fund?
I think we're almost finished. You know, that was all part of the, that bunch of cash that was all part of the under recovery for the meter, which we funded when we had shortages, you know, when people were stressed out. So, I think we're, my thought is, I didn't really talk about it. We're getting ready to get to very close to the recovery of all the under recovery by February 1st of next year. And so I would imagine that $20 million is filling up.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Just to follow up with, on the rate stabilization fund. It looks like on your annual rate adjustments for FY 25, 26, and 78, outside of the 1.5% increase, all the other scenarios, whether it be GWA or Georgetown, are all 7.75% increases. So, sometimes I like to rip off the Band-Aid. It's only for the first year, the 1.5, and then it kind of stabilizes all at 27, 28, 29, they're all 7.75%. So it's not like it's 1.5 on top of these 7.75. So that's where we're going to get it going. We should probably get it going with 1.5% as a one-time charge for FY 25, so that we don't have to worry about that.
For FY 25?
You're talking about FY 26?
No,
FY 26.
we start in FY 26,
FY
right?
26, yeah. So it'd be great.
I believe they cut off on the, by a year, just to kind of smooth the rates out a little bit, right? That's why they elected to do this.
Yeah, so it, so FY 25 is a really 11.5% increase.
In our scenario, yes, because
In
we
your
have
scenario.
included it, we have included funding of the RSF.
You already included those.
It's in there in the 11.5.
Or, I know you said it's starting in FY 26, so,
Yes.
but it's also FY 25.
No, it's not.
But they're the same, 11.5%. Right.
So that leveling was what was requested in the stipulation proceeding. Georgetown wanted us to work with them to try
Just to
to,
minimize the impact.
right, and so
On the ratepayers. Okay.
we pushed the increase specifically for the RSF into fiscal year 26.
26. Okay.
Everybody should understand the 7.75 for the last 3 years of the 5-year rate plan are basically placeholders. That's to be determined by true-ups on an annual basis here on out. That's all.
On the, going back to the bond indentures, and the rating, for the agency ratings, we still have, like EPA mandates, like, that are happening. Are there any, do you foresee any additional bonds or funding for these, consent decrees or projects? Or did we already throw out all of that last round?
No, the 5-year CIP that's associated and integral to this financial plan contemplates all of the work that's required in the partial consent decree, which is a 10-year compliance period.
Right.
So this 5-year plan is included in the first 5 years of that 10-year period, right? So it anticipates that we will borrow funds to do that. Also, to address the newly enacted EPA regulations on PFAS. And so that's part of our 5-year program. So these compliance requirements, these regulatory requirements are built into that capital improvement program. And the rates that we have here
Or to address those?
to address those. They're lower than our initial ask because our initial proposal that we submitted, we didn't have the authority, the legislative authority to do the short-term borrowing, which would save us finance costs. So it projected 3 bond issues within the 5-year period, totaling $780 million in bond borrowings. With the short-term financing, we're able to kind of spread that out a little more. So we will do 1 bond issuance, I think on year 3 or year 4 of this upcoming 5-year plan, and use short-term financing in front of that. That is our intention. And now that we have the authorization under law to do it, we are proceeding in that regard to set that.
So within those next 3 months, you're gonna need that rating, to be higher than negative.
Yes, even the short-term financing will require rating agencies to participate in every soon. They will be looking at our financial management, the reserves that we have, and our ability to protect or insulate ourselves from technical default, which is what the rate stabilization plan is about. Right.
So the scenario, the rate increases that GWA is requesting, is it GWA scenario 11.5 for 25, 11.5 for 26, or the alternative one for 11.11 and then 10.5 for 26? Which is the one that you are proposing?
GWA scenario of 11.5, 11.5, and then 3 years at 7.75.
And so 25 and 26 is a request to replenish the RSS and it can be, and
Absorb.
maintain the credit card transactions.
A one-time increase in 26 to begin funding the rates, refunding or replenishing the rate stabilization fund starting in fiscal year 26, and then for the remaining 3 years, 4 years total, but the remaining 2 years after 2026.
And that amount is 10 million. We will recover, we will replenish it
By 10 million by 2029.
And then you said that we used the 11.4 million,
Yes.
and what years was that again? I know I read it here.
I think it was started in 2022 or 21.
And when we had that, we had the ability to make sure that the rate increases that we had reviewed, approved were lower than what we would have had to have increased had we not had the rate stabilization plan, correct?
That's correct.
And I recall when we had said to you, please hold. I recall that we asked DWA to hold off because we were a lot of, maybe we were going to GPA. So in this, page, it's not numbered.
There's page numbers there, it's just very light on the, it's not right at the bottom right hand corner.
Okay, page 12. The comments that are given here is by the bond,
The rating agency.
the rating agencies. And so the recommendation, the press is, and show our stability is to replenish the RSS, correct?
Correct.
Am I reading this right?
Yes, the 2 biggest factors that the analysts that we have spoken to with regard to our, at the rating agencies with regard to our negative outlook and our rating level is that relied on the rate stabilization fund to meet debt service coverage requirement for the several prior years instead of using rate revenues. And that, to them, is like you're using your savings account to pay for your operational expenses. So that, from their, that's not a good financial management practice. The other thing is that the rate request that we sought was delayed, it was not timely, and wasn't what we asked for. And they know that happens. They know that this is we have to go to the Public Utilities Commission. But they also said at the time these ratings were given, the lack of a rate plan. They all understand the true-up process, but having a rate plan shows a direction of stability, a path that investors look for in determining what they're willing to risk in terms of investment and purchasing our bond. And so the lack of the 5-year rate path or plan, the history of underfunded rate increases or late rate increases, and then the depletion of the reserves and not replenishing it, those are the factors that have gone into our negative outlook. And so by passing this 5-year rate plan tonight, that helps check one of those boxes. We've got a plan, and what we requested, we agreed to stipulate, and we think it meets our needs. That is another box that gets checked. And then if we replenish the rate stabilization fund, it shows that we are making financially prudent decisions to put this away to account for unanticipated expenses. And then we also meet our liquidity targets, which are
Comments, Doris?
First of all, I do see the need for rate stabilization issue. The issue for me is more how much and when. Mr. Chair, I sort of liked your comment that maybe we can begin this not as high and maybe spread it over a longer period. And so I've been trying to figure out probably the appropriate number for that. And that's where I'm kind of at a loss, And how long did it take, because you have more history, how long did it take to give GPA up to a reasonable amount versus, and when you said initially 5 million, that was like cutting the rate in half, so to speak, and that would be something that probably could live with. When you look at the numbers, and the numbers are relatively small for the residential customers, it's the business people that I'm really very concerned about. 10 million, 9.8 million increase for commercial, 10 million for $10 million increase over 5 years. That is very cheap. us time to get to that endpoint of 10 million?
We had it at one time, and we completely used it up in a couple of years of the rate base, so I think, we can go into anyway to finish it.
Begin the process. And maybe, I like even numbers for maybe half the amount.
Tracy,
I'm
you're looking at
grasping,
like a 5%.
I'm grasping in here, in the air, 2.5, maybe 1.25, and then consider adding to that each year. Here's the other scenario that I would like to put on the table. Here's the other scenario that I would like to put on the table, and also for the record, a conversation that I had with Therese Rojas, very informally, about the rate stabilization fund as well. All the things that have, and I'm very happy that GWA and Georgetown resolved everything but two issues. So I want to say to GWA and to Georgetown, thank you. Make our life easier. Yeah. The one issue that I have the most heart with is the Navy. The Navy, when I saw that, one, they would not give you or Georgetown any information, and two, that it's 5 times the cost. And this is a monetary thing. There's no information whether this high cost of Navy water, about 500% above what it costs GWA to produce water, will continue in the future, or whether this is a one-time thing. My conversation with Therese was, have you folks ever considered bringing this to the attention of our congressional delegate to have a briefing on this matter and, call to the world what the Navy is doing to the ratepayers of Guam? I mean, I just find it so outrageous. And I think if, I recognize it's between congressional election year now, but this needs to be brought to higher powers up those lines. And if by chance there is a congressional hearing, this matter is brought out into the open, hopefully resolved and the people of Guam State. Have you folks discussed that or thought about it?
We did, at the request of the CCU, seek a meeting with leadership at the Navy. Specifically, we were asked to seek a meeting with the Admiral. And the Navy has been responsive. They have, we didn't have a meeting with the Admiral, but I did have a conversation with Captain Brown, who is at NAVAC and runs the oversees the utilities, among other things. But they did take another look and indicated to us that the rates moving forward would be lower than they are, than we're currently being charged, and there was a potential for some sort of credit to be applied. So we did get some preliminary resolution, and we expect that to be finalized. So we can address, if it does go down in future years, we can address that in the true.
Again, I still think we should at least brief the yes, we do need it, we need to show to the investors and everybody else that we are addressing it. We should ask how much, and this is part of the question. And this longer, I think I would be in favor of. Thank you.
Any other comments regarding this?
So roughly, it's scalable, so for example, if we were looking at 2.5 million with a 1.5% increase, that one-time increase would allow us to fund it at 2.5 million a year. So it's scalable, so if we were to, say, right, it would, roughly allow us to replenish at a proportional amount.
Starting in fiscal year 26.
So if you wanted to do 1.25% instead of 1.5% for fiscal year 26?
1.5 and then half of that. 1.5 is going to be the 1.5. So half of that would be half.
Roughly.
So Miguel, I think it would be something of the nature, instead of 2.5 million, it'd be 1.25. Or we can take a different number too.
Right, each year. But if our target was the 10 million, which is what we proposed, and we kept that, then it would take us longer.
Right.
Yes, we could true up that.
We can slow it down. Should give that back. Percentage basis, probably be about 3/4. Oh, sorry. You hear me now? Joe, any comments?
I do see other commissioners, I do see the rates and fund to be replenished. There's a question of, we're going to get a credit from the Navy. Where would that help us on our debt service ratio? If yes, we need all of the 10 million for the over 5 years. It's 5 million. If we look at year one at 0.75, look at the debt service ratio, that's all we did is refund 0.25, or we funded more for the Navy and revisit the true up on year one. So those are my thoughts.
Okay.
It's definitely needed.
Thank you, Joe.
Quincy?
Yeah, just to build on that, on Commissioner McDonald's statement, if we do that, and if we go 6.75, then that means that at some point, whether we stretch it out over the longer than the 5-year program, or if we're trying to cover the whole 10 in the 5 years, then whatever difference that includes on the 1.5%, that's if you only include 5%. So that's going to drop down 26 to like 10 point something, but then it's going to bring up 27 to 8%, and then it's bring up coming into another percentage that might be versus keeping it consistent. If we do it now, then the ratepayers can adjust at 7.5 every year, and it's consistent. It's not like just changing it up and down. Those are just my thoughts.
Again, 7.75 is just a placeholder. We don't know what year 3, 4, and 5 are going to be going forward in the future, so. I don't see what you're saying. Yeah, if it's 0.75, it would be the same all the way through. Oh, you're saying you peel off 0.75 on year 3, 4, and 5. There's room. That's what you're saying. Okay. Okay. You could increase in year 3. Okay.
And now the name drop.
Right.
The name drop. That's right.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Okay. All right, is somebody ready to make a motion? Oh, Peter's giving it to you, Doris.
I move to fund the rate stabilization fund at 0.75% a year, beginning in FY 26.
It's probably better to clarify the dollar value. Right, Miguel? What she's wanting to say is 1.25 million.
1.25.
Because the percentages could vary somewhat.
1.2
5 million per year.
per year.
Starting in fiscal year 2026. Okay. So basically, we're just grabbing that first year and the second year of this 5-year plan right now. And things could vary later on.
So currently it's scheduled at a 10-year.
My hope is maybe water
Back off.
backs off, then that rate that's already impacted for the being purchased goes to increase.
Right, right.
Rate stabilization.
Yeah, a little bit quicker. Yes.
So it's over
So
4
let's
year
still
period.
keep the same rate that we are using for the day, but instead of the basic purchases, it would come for rate stabilization fund. We don't drop the rates.
Should we get a credit for the?
So your motion, Doris, is 1.25 million?
A year,
Yes.
starting in FY.
Okay, very good. Is there a second to Doris's motion? Rowena seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. So Miguel, you've got your rate stabilization fund. And we're coming in at half the rate initially proposed for now, but we do have our commitment that we're going to refund the fund. Fred?
The biggest one is yet to come.
Not really, it's a stipulation.
Yeah, so it's still the
Fred, you want to?
Yes, I'll walk you through kind of the status of the case, the stipulation. I would ask GWA to prepare a new schedule A and L for particular business utilization and office. Assuming the stipulation. So, I think you've first seen, you've heard tonight, there was a lot of progress by GWA and Georgetown in trying to resolve this case. And I want to once again kind of go back over the history of this case and what the proposals are and where we are now. So back in June, when the petition was filed, GWA was asking for a 29% rate increase in FY 2025, 12.5% in FY 2026 and 10% each year thereafter through 2029. So that was a overall cumulative increase of about 71.5%. Now, after that, the Guam legislature passed the tax-exempt commercial paper bill and short-term funding alternatives. That is very beneficial because it now enables GWA to fund its $899 million capital investment program with tax-exempt commercial paper or other short-term borrowing alternatives, rather than bond issuances. Now, as Miguel had pointed out, there is still one bond issuance, either year 3 or 4, I guess, in this proposal. But as a result of that, then GWA was able to offer a lower price with the tax-exempt commercial paper funding of 17% in FY 2025, 6% in FY 2026 through 28, and 15% in FY 2029. So there was some downward movement there. And then finally, after the 7 months of negotiation between the parties, GWA and Georgetown came up with the proposals that they've now made, with GWA's being at 11% in 2025, 11 in 2026, 11.5 in those 2 years, and then 7.5% for the last 3 years. So my point is, there's been a lot of negotiation and a lot of reduction of the increase that the customers will have to bear.
It's still significant.
It is significant, and no one could deny that. I did want to point out a little about these proceedings. You commissioners see the presentations tonight, but there's really been an over 7-month, very dedicated effort by everyone, GWA, Georgetown, to carefully examine these rate increases in every aspect. There were many, many Zoom conferences between the parties, starting in May, going through the end of July. Hundreds of hours spent, arranged between the parties, setting up the conferences, preparing for the conferences, and also the fact that there were, I think, over 86 requests for information from Georgetown to GWA. So I think the commissioners can really rest comfortably that everything was done to reduce the amount of the rate increases. GWA negotiated on this. Georgetown made its best effort to try to cut the rate. And Georgetown was here, by the way, at the beginning of August for about 2 weeks, engaging in settlement negotiations with GWA. Those are the negotiations that led to the joint stipulation. So this was not an easy road, it was not a quick road, but it was a thorough sort of effort to arrive where we are today. I briefly want to indicate what happened at the public hearings. I have to say, an opinion of mine, very disappointing. 3 public hearings that were held on August 13th, 14th, and 15th. Not a single person here to testify. Now, this was in the face of rate increases requested over 50%. We know that the legislature apparently thought in the Ratepayer Bill of Rights that it was important to have ratepayer impact, and it is. But unfortunately, the system we have now doesn't seem to be working very well. I'm not sure exactly what we can glean from the fact that we didn't testify. We put it on our website and published in the paper.
That's where most people get their news at. I don't. I didn't even know you had it.
And it was out in public announcements too. I mean, the radio stations were all advertising. Well, any event, that was the status. There was one issue that came up that I did want to mention in public hearings. At the second hearing, I had asked Jim Bordalia about the Cortec litigation. And I want to call that the large elephant in the room, because this is a 5-year case. Right now, the Cortec litigation is unresolved. We don't know what the final results will be or if there will be an impact. But there's a possible impact ranging in the hundreds of millions of dollars if Cortec prevails. And GM Bordalia indicated in the public hearing that the only source available to pay that would be ratepayer funds. So what I'm saying is this is a 5-year case. The litigation may well be over within the 5 years. And if that's the case, everyone goes back to the drawing board to figure out possibly what the rates would have to be. That's why the PUC joined GWA and other parties to ask the Supreme Court of Guam to address this issue as quickly as possible. Now, why are these rate increases necessary? What are the real driving factors behind them? It's really a lot of requirements and factors over which GWA does not have a whole lot of control, the way I look at it. First is we have the 5-year capital improvement program at a cost of $899 million. Now, many of those projects, the priority projects, are mandated by the 2024 partial consent decree with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and as well as water treatment initiatives aimed at addressing the U.S. EPA proposed limits on emerging contaminants such as PFAS and deodorant. These are extremely expensive programs, and additional drivers, military buildup, and the water loss reduction program, which I'll get into somewhat. But overall then, we have water projects over $433 million. These consist of improvements to the Ugam treatment plant, rehabilitation and repair of existing wells, installation of new wells, expansion of the Santa Rita Springs impoundment to reduce reliance on Navy's water, and of course PFAS that I had mentioned before. There's a replacement of undersized water pipes, asbestos-containing water pipes, and other general water pipe replacement. You all know how critical that is. I mean, we have an old Navy water line system built around the end of World War II that now we're saying really needs a significant action to repair it. Other costs are the wastewater projects at over $330 million, and these focus on the meeting of the requirements of the 2024 partial consent decree. So again, I think on those, GWA doesn't have a lot of discretion. They're just projects that have to be done, and funds have to be found to meet them. Those projects for the wastewater system include repair of gravity mains, upsizing of pipes, assessment and rehabilitation or replacement of force mains, rehabilitation of prioritized lift stations, and sewer pump stations, and other tasks. And there's some other associated fees with the SCADA implementation and other general plant expenses. But I think GWA's engineer, Ms. Owens, kind of hit the nail on the head when she said that without achieving these important projects, GWA will violate the terms of the partial consent decree, face additional regulatory enforcement action, and fail to sustain Guam's community water supply storage and distribution system, and Guam's community sewer collection, transmission, treatment, and disposal systems. And, you know, I have to note that there really wasn't an issue that I saw raised in our case about the amount of the CIP program, the $899 million. Georgetown seemed to recognize that was needed. I don't really remember any extensive arguments about the amount of the capital improvement program. So that's kind of the force behind why these funds are necessary. And we'll get into a little more on the water control program and others. The joint stipulation was entered on August 28, 2024. You know what the basic positions are now, so probably the final positions are probably going to be something closer to the GWA position of 11.5 and 11.5, but probably a little less. I'll leave it to you, math wizards, to figure out what that difference is. I'm not going to cover everything that I covered in my report on the stipulation. I'll go over a few of the issues. I did want to mention, though, with rate increases, actually, we talked a lot about the cumulative increases. So with what GWA had proposed before the alteration of the RSF, it was a 46.5 cumulative increase over 5 years. But there's something different. It's a compounded increase because actually each year the rates are going up and it compounds. So the figures I was provided by GWA's consultant, it indicates that GWA's scenario was actually, and that's with the full RSF, but 5 years compounded 55.50. I think that's important, but I still believe that it has been proven to be necessary for this method. Projected revenues, the revenues of GWA go up substantially from 139 plus million, almost 140 million in FY 2025, up to almost 190 million in FY 2029. The water purchases, we've already had addressed somewhat. The financial impact of the water purchases were from what had been expected to cost 30 plus million over the 5 years to Navy, went up to 63 plus million, over $32 million. That's a huge reason for an increase in this case. And hopefully that can be mitigated. So I wanted to address too a little about the water loss management program, because that's really been a concern of our consultant George now over the many years. And I think GWA has still indicated the water loss is great. It's over 50% still. And recently it appears that the district metering area program, we think the PUC believes has been a good program, very helpful, identified these sources of the problem. But unfortunately to date it hasn't really helped with the water loss problem. So then the question is, what projects are we going to undertake to, reduce the water loss? And there are specific projects in the stipulation that the parties have agreed to. First of all, the DMA program, of course, with leak detection and repairs will continue. There's a construction of the Brigade Pump Station Improvement Project, the construction of the Santa Rita Springs Improvement and Expansion Project, and it's hoped that those projects will reduce the use of Navy water. GWA will be increasing its reporting to the PUC on the water loss program. There'll be annual reviews of the program and also annually updated goals and progress in the semi-annual water loss control programs reporting provided to the PUC. Regulatory assets. I will go over the regulatory asset. The idea with the regulatory asset is basically if GWA has a certain cost, that the cost can be amortized and spread out over a number of years. And that, of course, it spreads more evenly the rates that have to be paid and reduces the needs of, it reduces what has to be paid, for example, in FY 2025. If you spread it out over 2 years, 5 years, you can pick any period. And that's exactly what the parties have done. They decided that rather than requiring ratepayers to immediately pay for those regulatory assets, that they would be spread out under a number of years. And there are a number of expenses that fall into that category. One was the regulatory expenses of GWA from the 2020 docket 1908 phase 1 case. And I believe that amounts to, I want to say, yeah, 3.2 million. And the amortization proposed will be over the 5-year period, FY 2025 through 29. I believe that an amortization rate of 3%. So again, the impact on the ratepayers will be moderated somewhat. There's also the litigation costs for the Quartet litigation. And I think let's see, there's two aspects of this. There's estimated annual 1.5 million in FY 2025 and 2026. And the regulatory asset will be spent, let's see, 3% over the 5 years beginning in FY 2027. All these regulatory assets have some different terms. They're included in the regulatory asset order that you would be asked to apply tonight. I think that covers the most of the regulatory asset issues. So why should you approve the joint stipulation? If you look at the process, there was a careful and deliberate process by engaged parties who were certainly trying to come to a decision that would be fair to the utility and fair to the ratepayers. As I mentioned, many of the expenses are beyond GWA's control. The joint stipulation itself, lawyers would always say, well, it was bargained for by parties at arm's length. We didn't always have the same interests in mind, but that's another reason. If you see an argument that was well made by both sides, that would be a factor in approving it. As I previously went over, I don't need to repeat it, but the rate increases proposed is really moderated substantially. And I think that's another reason to believe that the parties align at the right stipulation here. As Ms. Brooks had mentioned, there is a different rating system on different classes of rate base. And really, when you look at the residential, I mean, in general terms, as I could see it, I don't know if all my numbers are always right, but it seems that the impact there, especially for the majority of ratepayers, we're talking about residential ratepayers that use 3/4 inch pipe and also use the average, which is about 5 gallons per month. They're going to have a 28.3% impact over the five years. Maybe a little less now, since RFS is produced. But those residential ratepayers that use more water, 7 gallons or 12 gallons, yeah, they're going to pay quite a bit more. So 35.4% cumulative, or for using 12 gallons, 43.1. As our consultant on rate design said, well, those that use more water pay for it. So that seems to be important for accepted regulatory principles. I think and I think we hadn't mentioned, there is a lifeline rate increase in 2025. I think that's also built in. The picture is not as rosy for the commercial, hotel, government, agriculture, and irrigation customers. I think they are all facing increases over the 5 years of over 50%. So there will certainly be an impact there. I couldn't deny that this stipulation will cause a lot of rate increase on those particular classes. But on the other hand, I think I'm convinced that the amount of the rate increases is necessary and that they are just and under the circumstances that briefly go through the ordering provisions in the rate decision that you would be ruling on. So you have ruled that the rate stabilization fund would be replenished and at the amount of $1.25 million beginning in FY 2026. The credit card company charges will remain the same as they are now. They will be funded as part of GWA's revenue point. You would be approving joint stipulation of the parties. And the order will specify, once we get the final figures, what the rate increases will be for the next 5 years based on your rulings tonight. And as we know, these rate increases are all subject to revision in the annual true-up proceedings. You will be finding that the rate increases are just and reasonable. GWA's filing did meet all of the requirements in Chapter 12 GCA, 12 GCA Chapter 12, and the rate application model has certainly been pretty well finalized in application. I think it's an accurate tool now, and it seems to have done well in the rate process to figure out what rates are. So it's a good tool. Tax exempt commercial paper will be, or other short-term financing alternatives will be used by GWA in funding its 5-year rate plan. But there still is the allowance for one possible bond issuance in year 3 or 4. GWA will still, they've had some difficulty in hiring a consultant to analyze staffing, and we've made provision in the order for GWA to, again, issue a request for proposals for a staffing study to be used in future truants. On the Navy water purchase, GWA is agreeing to a report to the PUC by January 1, 2025 on options for segregation of Navy water purchases expense recovery, possibly through a designated surcharge if necessary. And GWA is going to strive in terms of the debt service coverage for at least a 1.5 debt service coverage for years 2027, 2028, and 2029, although it will be probably be below that for the first 2 years of the rate period. GWA is going to continue implementing and executing its water loss control program with its water loss consultant. And to improve the program, those projects I mentioned earlier that are designed to reduce water purchase from the Navy, the particular projects, GWA asked that they be allowed to pursue those without going through the contract review protocol. Georgetown felt that was reasonable. I believe it's reasonable because they're such a high priority and such high importance. So contract review protocol would be waived in terms of requesting review by the PUC for those specific water loss control programs. GWA is going to continue its efforts of reviewing and analyzing ice replacement and other projects with water loss control. And on the priority projects that were specified in the stipulation, they will also report on those further on January 3, 2025. I think I mentioned already the regulatory asset expenses and how they will be amortized and set over a period of time, and the order specifies those. periods of time for each. And in this docket, I believe that the docket should be kept open because there are various proceedings and stipulations that have to be conducted. So you would be authorizing me to oversee the administrative tasks and to issue any additional orders needed as reasonable and necessary. Now let me talk about just briefly, of the accounting order. This was agreed to by the parties, and there will be a regulatory asset for the adjudication expenses, which included analytical studies, the development of the RAM, regulatory expenses for the 3.2 million. And those would be amortized over the 5-year rate plan period. This will be a new regulatory asset. Let's see, creation of a new regulatory asset for the FY 2025 to 2029 rate application, and that will be spread over the 5-year period. The 1.5 million in legal expenses for FY 2025 and FY 2026 for litigation incurred in FY 2025 and 2026 will be classified as a regulatory asset, amortized over the remainder of the 5-year financial plan, 2027 and 2029. And it's possible that power expenses up to 4 million could also be made into a regulatory asset in 2025 and amortized in 2026. This will be subject to review by TWA with its accountants and to make sure that these regulatory assets comply with government accounting standards. In the order, commissioners will be approving all of these regulatory assets.
Thank you, Fred. I want to thank GWA and our staff consultant, Georgetown, and our ALJ, Mr. Fred Harecki, for a job well done in getting us this far. He took a lot of the pain out of this particular great case out of our consideration, so makes it a lot easier for us. Thank you. Any comments from the commissioners? Rowena?
Brandon, the water loss program where you said the contract review would be waived because of the prioritization. But they will keep fees here from the rest of the school.
Yes, I have the authority.
And that would be up to how much?
Well, the specific this, so I don't know the dollar.
I think the focus is going to be down south because of the Navy water purchase considerations. So Agate, Santa Rita, and those areas will probably get corrected sooner than other areas. Is that correct, Miguel?
Yes, those areas would be prioritized, and the projects would involve the line replacement, prioritized line replacement in those areas where we purchase Navy water, and then projects that would allow us to reduce our reliance on Navy water by moving more of water produced by either GWA's northern system in our wells or the surface water treatment plant in our southern system, and moving that into the central system where we have a lot of Navy water purchases. So those are the projects that are contemplated in the stipulation, and we agreed to prioritize those in the coming years.
Okay. Anything else? I think we have to make motions on 2 separate
moved.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out that with regards to the stipulation, there was one table in the stipulation that is in error. The spreadsheet cells that were grabbed to populate that table were off by 1 year. Instead of going from 25 to 29, it went from 24 to 28. So the totals don't tie up, but the schedule in stipulation is correct. So we will issue an errata just to correct.
Thank you, Miguel. Good evening, Mr. Chair. So on page 15, there's a projected debt service expenses table. So I just asked the commission for permission for GWA to change the table and correct the numbers. So the table on page 15 for fiscal year 2025 through 2029, the stipulated amounts, the figures there are incorrect, but the corresponding Schedule A2 on page 25 of the signed stipulation has the correct numbers. So we did include it with the signed stipulation. It inadvertently just wasn't updated into that table. So I just like permission on the record for GWA to switch out this page 15 before the PUC formally adopts and approves the signed stipulation and includes that with order.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, that being said, is there a motion for the stipulation with the correction? Doris, are you making a motion again? Second?
I'll second.
Peter seconds. All in favor, say aye. The motion carries unanimously, and the second one is the accounting order for the regulatory assets. Do I have a motion for that?
Chairman,
Yeah.
to approve the stipulation on that.
Make the joint stipulation with the correction. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Rowena. Second? George seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Motion to adjourn.